The Catholic Church has blocked plans for the first ever state curriculum in world religions and ethics for primary schools. This latest church-state education clash has emerged in a report from the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. I'm joined on the line now to discuss this by both David Quinn, Director of the Iona Institute, and Michael Nugent, Chairman of Atheist Ireland. You're both very welcome to the programme. Michael, I might start with you. What's your reaction to this today?
Well, they're trying to block it, and they may well succeed, but the way that the state can prevent them from blocking it is to change the Education Act, because the government has a constitutional obligation to provide children with a moral education in an objective, critical and pluralistic manner. They can't do that, unfortunately, without amending the Education Act, because at the moment the Catholic Church can implement the state curriculum in accordance with Catholic ethos and not with human rights ethos. So the Catholic Church is threatening to do that, but if the state changes the Education Act, then they could ensure that this new course is delivered in accordance with human rights standards that respect everybody's beliefs.
And in terms of the concerns raised by the Catholic Church or representatives of the Church in this public consultation, what they're saying is they think it would confuse children if, on top of their Catholic religion classes that would be taught as part of being in a Catholic school, they also have to teach children about other beliefs and religions, that there would be confusion there. Is that not a fair point?
Well, this isn't some bishop down the country coming up with this idea of confusion. That idea of creating confusion comes from Vatican policy, from a letter in 2009 saying that it would lead pupils into error and would put their faith in peril. So it's a Catholic position that uniquely among states, because the Catholic Church is also acts as a state, as the Vatican. They're the only state that rejects a set of principles called the Toledo Guiding Principles, which is a set of principles for how to teach about religion and belief in an objective and critical and pluralistic manner. So everybody else recognises that, it's not going to confuse children in a civics class to teach them that different political parties have different views, and it shouldn't confuse them in a religion class to teach them that different religions have different views.
David Quinn from the Iona Institute is also on the line. David, what do you make of Michael's comments?
Well, in terms of the overall issue, to me, it depends on how you would teach world religions, and also how much time would be devoted to it out of the current amount of time spent teaching RE. So I'd have no objection in principle to teaching children in a Catholic school, a Protestant school, a Muslim school, Jewish school, or whatever the case may be, about Islam, about Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on. I think it'd be good for them to know about these things and to know that you have your beliefs, here are these other beliefs, and we ought to respect each other's beliefs. So no problem with that. It would depend on how much time is taken out of the present teaching of RE. I see there was some guidelines came out from the National Council of Curriculum Assessment in 2014 saying 18 hours over the 8 years of primary school, mainly in 5th and 6th class, should be devoted to teaching about other religions. I'd have no problem with that. I think the problem would be, again, if it cut too much time out of teaching the specific faith of the school, and also if it was teaching it in a way that effectively and implicitly seemed to teach that either all religions are equally true or equally false, because that's where the confusion, would lie. So an awful lot depends on how it's done and how much time is spent doing it.
And what would you say then, David, to people who are sending their children at the moment to Catholic schools because there is no other choice for them, because 90% of the schools in this country are still run by the Catholic Church? So they have no other choice. The parents don't believe in the Catholic faith. They don't want their children brought up in the Catholic faith, but this is the only school that they have available to them. Those parents are saying, and there's a couple of submissions to this consultation, that they want their children taught equally about other religions.
Well, I've been supporting for years and years and years greater pluralism and greater school choice. I think there needs to be a lot more schools like Educate Together schools, which are non-denominational and teach the specific faith of the various children in the school after school hours. And if parents want that and they want, schools to meet that demand, I think that should happen and happen quickly. The government is committed to that. I think it wants about 400 such schools within the next 3 or 4 years. I hope that happens. I hope that local politicians and local bishops and priests, put more effort into doing this and selling it to their local communities. Because, in fact, when particular schools get targeted for divestment, there's often quite a lot of local resistance to it. So we don't want to, exaggerate demand for alternative types of education, but clearly it's there and it needs to be met. So I think that is the best way to do it. And we also we shouldn't underestimate the level of demand there is for denominational schools, even in very secular countries like Britain. In Britain, about a third of publicly funded schools are church-run by mainly the Church of England and the Catholic Church, and they are in demand. In fact, they're in excess demand. And Theresa May, the British Prime Minister, has recently said in order to meet demand, they are going to build, at state expense, more Catholic schools, because it is what a certain number of taxpayers actually want.
Sure, but a third is very different to 90%. I mean, it's a very different ratio. And in the meantime, as you said, you've been looking for a choice for parents for years. So have parents been looking for choice for years, and the progress on it has been interminably slow. There's no real indication that's going to speed up anytime soon. I saw an email, a statement from the Department of Education just a couple of hours ago talking about opening 4 more schools around the country. I mean, it is very, very slow. So in the meantime, do you not think Catholic schools could come halfway while this divestment and choice is happening, and come halfway and offer parents the type of teaching that they want?
Well, you see, you've got to actually, you've got to find a way to satisfy as many parents as possible. And if you parents sending their children to a Catholic school or a Protestant school or whatever, they're going to expect their children to be taught in the faith of that school. And you're going to want, a certain number of hours over the school year to be devoted to that. So, I mean, again, to me, parents who want their children not to be in RE class can have their children withdrawn from RE class. But there's proposals to remove crosses from the walls of schools because it might offend the beliefs of some parents, not to have prayers during the school day because it might offend the beliefs of some parents, and so on. So then you would have denominational schools, which are basically denominational in name only, and that violates the rights of parents who do want a denominational education for their parents. So I think what we need to do is basically fast forward divestment of schools. But that is something that is not only the responsibility of the bishop, there's also the responsibility of local politicians to sell it to the local community, because often local communities in practice are actually resistant to seeing their local Catholic school divested.
Michael Nugent of Atheist Ireland, your response to that?
Well, this particular issue has nothing to do with divestment. This particular issue is saying that in Catholic schools, outside of the religious instruction classes that you already have a right to opt out from, that the rest of the curriculum should be delivered in an objective, critical and pluralistic manner. Now, that's a human rights issue, and the state has a constitutional obligation to all parents, not just to religious parents and not just to Catholic parents, to ensure that their education is in conformity with their religious or non-religious philosophical convictions. Now, last week we met the Council of Europe Commissioner for Human Rights, who was shocked at the Irish education system. He said he'd never seen anything like it. And he said that what is happening is that the religious school patrons are holding the Irish state hostage. And that's essentially what's happening here, and it's what David is outlining. The state is trying to put in place something that fulfills its duty to every parent, not just the Catholic parents. And the Catholic Church is saying, no, we're not going to go along with that. Not only do we want our own religious instruction classes, but we want to prevent children from being able to hear objectively about other religions and beliefs as well. And that's breaching everybody's human rights. And the only way to stop the Catholic Church from being able to prevent everybody's rights from being respected is to change the Education Act to ensure that the curriculum is delivered objectively and not in accordance with one belief.
I would question the use of the word objectively, because, in order to teach about various religions, or indeed any particular worldview, how do you intend teaching it in what you call an objective way?
Well, I can answer you if you like.
Well, because if you teach this worldview and this worldview and that worldview and that religion in a so-called objective way, you're actually basically saying, well, this might be true, this might be true, this might be true, which goes against the objective of a faith school and the parents who want their children to be taught in a particular faith, which is why, again...
But every religion under the Catholic Church is capable of recognising that distinction, and is capable of saying that during formal religious instruction, the Catholics will say this is what Catholics believe, other religions will say what they believe, but that children can be taught objectively. Not that something is true. I would be as opposed to the state education system telling children that atheism is true as I answered it to them saying that religion is true. What they should teach children is Catholics believe this, Protestants believe this, Muslims believe this. Now, we are in a coalition with the Evangelical Alliance of Ireland, Atheist Ireland, and the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, who have the very different worldviews, and as you say, would obviously not be teaching our children
I think
the other belief systems.
Agnosticism is the problem.
But well, that's a different issue that we discuss some other time. But we're quite capable of saying we have very different worldviews. and we will convey to our children our different worldviews at home and religion. But that when the state is involved, the state should not be taking sides.
All right, I'll give the last word to David Quinn.
I agree with that. But again, in countries like Britain, Australia, Germany, Italy, Spain, etc., the various faith schools are allowed to teach religion in their own way and don't have a world religions course, such as the one you're talking about, imposed upon them.
But they don't comprise the entire education system. There are a minority of schools in those countries.
Well,
in Ireland, the Catholic schools are the entire system.
So it must be more school choice, therefore. I mean, that's the answer to this. More school choice, rather than attacking the ethos of the existing Catholic and other denominations.
But just finally, David, on that point, while we're waiting for more school choice, because we've got nowhere with that in the last 5 or 6 years, while we're waiting for more school choice, would you encourage the Catholic Church and Catholic-run schools to allow something like this proposal to be implemented?
Again, it would depend on the number of hours. 18 hours is completely reasonable, and it would also
over the entire.
But I wouldn't have an objection in principle at all to teaching kids in a Catholic school or Protestant school or whatever about world religions, depending again on how it's done and how much time is devoted to it.
All right, we have to leave it there. David Quinn, director of the Iona Institute, and Michael Nugent, chairman of Atheist Ireland. Thank you both for joining us.